flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody. This is, for the public, this is the Capital Improvement Planning Committee meeting of January 21st, Tuesday. Welcome aboard. We've got a quorum, and we have a couple of people who won't be with us tonight. But we can go ahead with our business. Tom, we welcome you here tonight as well. I think tonight we can probably wrap this up, I guess, because we're getting pretty close, because that's all up to you and how the discussion goes. But we're at the point of making choices, and we started doing some of that last week, as you all know. So anyway, I'd like to just dispense with the approval of the minutes first. We do have two sets of minutes. The first one was December the 5th. I believe I had done those minutes, and then the last meeting, January 9th, Jim did the minutes, and we sent them both out to you. What is the pleasure of the committee? I'll take these one at a time, as we usually do that. Regarding December 5th,
Motion to approve the minutes of Thursday, December 5th.
Second.
motion made and seconded. Let me just make notes. I'm taking the minutes tonight, so I've got to be a little slow here. So the motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on the minutes of December the 5th, 24? No?
I abstain.
Al's going to abstain. Okay, abstain.
Me too. I wasn't here.
You were out? Okay, yeah. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries, so that would be 7 minus 5 in favor. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5 in favor and 2 abstentions. 5, 0, 2. 0 being nobody opposed, but 2 abstentions. Let me just get that. Thank you. Now, the next item, pretty much the same, the minutes of January 9th, which was our last meeting. Pleasure of the committee.
Motion to approve the minutes of Thursday, January 9th.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? This is Jim did these minutes. Great job.
Question on formality.
Okay.
Do we have to put adjourn passed unanimously? We just adjourned it and we didn't pass it. So, no big deal. I want to be legal.
Where is
did
that
leave.
on the minutes?
The last thing.
Last one.
Who did those minutes?
Usually we pass it unanimously. Told you.
I can add, if you want to amend it, I will add those.
Yeah, why don't we amend it and just add the adjournment? What are you looking for, the words that say we are adjourned, or it would pass?
We passed it, that we voted to pass it
Yeah,
unanimously.
made a motion and seconded, we didn't vote to pass it. So have we been in session for the last couple of weeks and didn't realize it? Okay, so that.
We're running out of the door.
So we're voting on the amended minutes of January 9th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Any abstentions? We're all here. Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Let's get that out of the way. All right. Now, we're here tonight to do the ranking and recommendations for the fiscal year 2026 capital requests. And last week, and you have a handout here, we were given, we went through the list and came back with rankings and numbers next to them. And Jim, I'm going to ask you to help steer us through this. I've been playing around with some numbers. And just to get us going, for what it's worth, I looked at all the number ones with the exception of the fire truck, because that's a big ticket item. And I just wanted to see what that would add up to. And it's under the column that says free cash. The one in the middle is 2 free cash columns. I realize people, members of the public can't see this exhibit, but So he starts with $200,000 for the cemetery expansion, 85 for the cruise IT server cluster, then the passenger van, COA, $20,000, so on and so forth. Down the bottom, it has a number of 1.486 million, but I didn't include some of the other things. I just wanted to get the ones we had picked as number ones. The number, the 1,000,004 includes numbers, or projects that were graded as 2, less important, and 3, less important. So I just wanted the ones. And that came to $1,000,001. Now, but then, I don't think we can get very far unless we settle the fire truck question. That's the big ticket item, $950,000. And I see, Jim, you put something here that's, I think, of interest, where you have the overlay, is this the assessor's overlay fund
Yes.
reserves?
Yes, so we have some excess money in that account right now. So we should be able to take $450 out of that.
Mm-hmm.
We'd also looked, the select board, depending on how they set up the free cash, we're looking maybe possibly putting 500 into capitalization. So if we didn't put it into stabilization account, then it might be something they could use for the fire engine.
Okay, first of all, Theo, the 450,000, that's correct?
Yes, that's what we talked
Yeah,
about, yeah.
yeah. And, but the 500,000 here is not for the fire truck at the moment, it's for future use of the fire truck, perhaps?
I think that was the intent. We really didn't get into a lot of detail with the selectmen yet. The selectmen, I think, looked at about roughly 1.5 million for the CIPC. They just kind of put that as an alternative, something that the select board or this committee should look at going forward.
Well, in terms of the math, at least following my method here, if we were to put $500,000 out of free cash to the cost of the fire truck, then we could afford to purchase it with the 450 from the overlay reserve. That item would be completed, and the total amount out of free cash then would be about $1,000,007 as I have it. So the number can't be right, but I think it is. It's, because again, I just added up the ones, and the free, yeah, the free cash, the items listed as number 1, came to $1,000,001, and we add in the 500,000 for the truck. If we were to do that, we're up to I say $1,000,007. And that's, we talked about $1,000,005, but we do have $1,000,007 if we wanted to recommend that. But you're not recommending we do that. You're recommending we don't engage in the purchase of the truck at this time? Or do we use the 450 for a down payment? I mean, what do you have in mind?
In addition to the 1.5 million for capital expenses for the committee, we're considering putting another $500,000 aside into the capitalization stabilization
Right,
fund,
right.
capital stabilization fund. If we didn't put the 500 into the fund and we actually used it for the engine, then, we might be accomplishing the same thing. The thought was to put the 500 in there for future year expense, but if we can use some money from the assessor's overlay to cover the additional, maybe they can purchase it this year.
I'm always the one fighting to have money put into the capital stabilization fund, but that's, like you say, no sense in actually putting it into capital stabilization and then voting it out either at the same town meeting or next year's town meeting. Just as easy we could fund it that way now.
Yeah.
Directly from free cash.
This could be our one opportunity in a while to have this amount of free cash. It's a pretty significant amount, so the question becomes, if we don't sequester some money, I don't have an idea of what that amount of money is now, it's not going to necessarily be available next year or the year after to sequester. So, I mean, that's the alternate to, and should we consider trying to get some of this money for the engine at town meeting as a debt exclusion.
Let me just make sure I understand that. So at town meeting, there would be an article to put before the voters a ballot question of some amount
Correct.
for part of the cost of the truck.
For all or part,
All
but if we have, pardon me, the assessor's overlay of 450, then that 500 that we're plugging in right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm just tossing that out as an alternative.
Okay?
I'm going to say on that, if we're looking at borrowing only 500,000 and going to go through the whole overlay process, override process for that, it's a lot of expense to do that, because that means running a special town meeting and so forth, or we'd have to vote to put it on town, we'd have to have town meeting, and it would have to be on the ballot. I don't know what the time frame is to get it on the ballot for April, whether we could put it on the ballot first. We've done that
We'd have
before.
time to do that.
Probably getting close on that.
Well, yeah.
So a lot of work for not a lot of return is
Right,
pretty much what you're saying, okay.
right,
I think if you did the whole thing as a debt exclusion, that'd be,
yeah.
one thing. Do half. You know, do you just borrow the money, or? do you
So
take it
for
out of
the-
capitalization?
So for the moment, we have three parts to this. 450 from the overlay.
And then again, that would have to be voted on by the assessors
Yes.
and the select board and
Yeah.
town meeting, I
Yeah.
think, too, right?
Not the town meeting,
Not
just,
town.
that's just assessors and the select board. To transfer over,
Okay.
just those two board members.
The town meeting would have to appropriate the money.
Appropriate, yes, the town meeting has to appropriate, but as far as turning it over, it still has to be appropriated at town meeting, yes.
Yeah, yes, it's got to go to town meeting. But you have the money that's there. I would hope that could pass. But the second part of that is the 500 would be stabilization fund money coming from free cash. And the third idea is, or the third potential source of funds is an override, which is probably not going to be easy to do, with the time frame being what it is. So, you know, in a way, I just want to throw this out for discussion. If we do something along these lines, we get it done. It's done. And we talked about this last time, and we talked about it with the fire department. There's nothing else big coming down the pike for them for a while, from what I recall. Double check that, of course. But this enables us to take a major expense for the town and be done with it, because we have the money. I didn't realize what the 450 was until today, or until I got this the other day. So that's good. So with 500 out of free cash, which we do have, we could get this done. Now, last time, we talked about doing some kind of an installment thing,
Yes,
and that was, I forget the numbers, but we weren't talking about the 450 at that time. We were just talking about, what if we did this 300,000 this year, and, you know, I don't know, 300,000 the next year, maybe coming from the capital stabilization fund, maybe not. I don't know if we talked about an excluded debt measure, and then we would take it that way. Is that viable?
we could in theory put the 250, the 500 into the capital stabilization, take the 450 for the fire truck this year, and then next year, if we don't have free cash, like we could do 250 and 250 in each year to pay for the remainder of the fire truck from free cash. If we don't have those funds in free cash at that time, we could always hit the capital stabilization, because we would have to have an alternate plan. Once he orders the fire truck, he has to know that he's got the money.
Right.
So we'd have to have an alternate plan, which might mean we'd, at that point, if we didn't have the 250 for each of those next 2 years for the free cash, that we would have to hit capital stabilization for it.
How much do you have in capital stabilization now?
That is a good question. I do not know off the top of my head.
Me either. I didn't bring it with me.
I
We
don't-
put some in last year, I think, didn't we, the finance?
Yes,
Yeah.
We didn't
yes,
put a lot
we do
in.
have, we've been trying to put some in.
Say it's a few $100,000, right?
Yeah.
It's not,
Sounds,
Yeah, it's not a
It's
lot
not.
of money.
it's not a lot.
Which, like I say, if we were to put this 500 in there, it's kind of there in case we need it, but if we vote the 250 and the 250 next year from free cash and the following year from free cash, that 500's still sitting in capital stabilization for something down the road,
either the fire truck or something else.
or something else.
Yeah, I get it, I think.
So just taking a step back, are we in agreement that we should do all the ones? Is that,
Well, it seemed to me that was pretty cut and dried, because we discussed them.
It's just in your column of free, that says free cash, you have a 2, and then you have a January 2nd.
yeah, those are two, yeah.
Yeah, what is that?
Give me this again, what's the, we talked about?
She's pointing out the 2 2s in the January 2nd.
January
Should be a 2.
2nd, I guess it took that date, this number here as a,
Oh, that one. That's for the, and that's supposed to read, what is that supposed to?
2.
Two, forget the January part. Well,
So if we're not including the 2s, then we need to change that number at the bottom.
but I also notice above it, the Cascade system, is that what I'm looking at? For 150, it says 75.
Yeah, so that would be one of them. That would be the North End Fire Station. I
Okay.
did speak to the chief on that, and he said that's more of a priority than the South End Fire Station.
well, I didn't include the 110 of January 2nd for the fuel tanks.
Or the 180, right?
So the number that I have, the ones, it was this million, I'll call it 1.2 million.
Here's my one.
And you could double check the math on this. 5,
Should be 290 less, right?
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, something like, that's the number I have.
Okay.
They have one-
Not including the
196
fire truck.
1196, right?
1196, that's, I
So-
can still add.
I'd be in favor of recommending all the ones at this point.
Yeah, it looks like we can afford that with what we talked about before, coming from free cash. And we can do that, I think, regardless of what our decision is on the fire truck.
Yes.
Yes,
Is that the way everybody thinks about it?
yes.
Agreed. Yeah.
I mean, the fire truck's got a different solution that wouldn't affect these items. That money's around, we can get it, we can use it, it can be part of an article at town meeting for those items, which total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Done deal. Okay. I'm happy we've got this free cash this year. Okay, I think we could agree on that.
I have 9.
9. There's
Two of
9.
them are number 2s though aren't included, right?
Yeah. Are
The
they
110 and the 180
Right, but there's 9 other ones.
Yeah,
in perpetual care, are those? Okay, so that includes the 2 in perpetual care.
Right, but one is half
Yeah.
free cash, half perpetual care.
Well, I just added, no, I was
Free
trying to
cash
figure out
one.
the free cash. I just
Right.
added those. Those come to
Oh.
this million,
Right.
one-ish.
Yeah,
1,200,000.
1,196,000.
Yeah, and we do have 2 other items, yes, we do.
So I would make a motion to approve the number 1s, which would include the cemetery expansion. This is from free cash, 200,000. IT server cluster, 85,000. The council on aging, 20,000 for the matching grant for the passenger van, 256,000 for 3 police cruisers, 75,000 for the Cascade system with the fire department, 235,000 for security upgrades at the school, 325,000 for the Met playground. But you wanted to change that, right? To the generators is what I got from Michelle, was more of a priority than, I'm glad I read those
Sure, please.
before I finish my vote. Motion,
You're the audience.
Fall asleep right
I'm glad I read that.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. One of the things I'm trying to do is be as clear as possible, but there are some moving targets. For example, on the generator that we're speaking of right now, we met with Kathy Stanley and Joe Bliss, and we're trying to figure out to what degree we might be able to get resources or funding outside of either the CIPC or outside of the operational budget. Because according to Kathy, there's a good deal of grant money involved right now in terms of electrification. The challenges that I see going forward are as follows. The first one is, there's no doubt that they're moving, the society's trying to move towards electrification, and I know that, because I'm serving on a committee right now from Eversource, which discusses the use of alternative pipeline sourcing for energy. And they are clearly trying to move away from gas at this point. So this is a critical question when you're talking about making an expenditure for something like a generator that you're hoping that is going to last 20 years or something like that. And on top of the fact that the current generators that we have are indoors, by code, they need to be outdoors. So we know that that's something that we've got to take a look at. And so, but we're kind of, after today, I'm putting it on a hold, because if we get the money from another source, count us in, you know. So we definitely need the security stuff that, would be part of the number one. The playground, it needs attention, but we also understand that there are a lot of there's a lot of competing needs in the town, so we're not trying to be pigs at the trough. But I don't want anyone here thinking, because I'm not saying it's a go, it's in bad shape, but
But how does that relate to your question?
So my paper here that you have in front of you has 325 for the playground, but nothing for the generator. And Michelle had mentioned that you guys were considering swapping those two.
So what happened was, we got a back of the envelope number on the generator. So the generator, the COLA, that would service the whole school so that we could actually operate as a school in the event that something happened. The quote with labor is somewhere around $100,000. That's the quote that we got. The generator itself is $42,000. So the general rule from contractors out there is, whatever the cost of the item is, double it in terms of the labor, and that will give you a back of the envelope number. So again, when she talked about the challenge we face, for example, and Jim, I know you remember this, we talked about air conditioning the West. There's a whole bunch of things that have to happen for that to happen, including an upgrade of the electrical system. What Kathy said today is, if we only put in splits that do air conditioning and not heat, there'll be no money forthcoming, because all of the money forthcoming is involved with the heat and replacing from the gas to the electrification. So there's a lot of there's a lot to consider, and in a town where money is tight, we're trying to be very thoughtful about. So we're having an assessment done pro bono, by the way, thank you, which should take about 3 or 4 months, and then we'll know exactly what we need and what the cost will be at that point. So that's why I'm saying, as far as the generator goes on this, as much as we need it, I don't think we have a choice but to hold off on information from Kathy Stanley. I mean, I defer to you, but in a world where there's unlimited needs and limited finances, if somebody else can pay for this, count me in.
Well, at the moment, we didn't include the 300,000 that's listed here at the moment.
Understood, yeah.
For it. But we do have the MAC playground at 325. So, coming back to your question, does that answer your question? We're not putting it on, I guess, at the moment. Is that the gist of this?
Well, again, if this committee came and said, we're gonna pay for the playground, count me in, I mean, obviously. But, there's also a real politic here that, I'm listening to discuss a $900,000 fire truck. That's not light and fluffy, that's real money.
Yeah.
So,
But it's not interfering with the playground, because the motion that wasn't seconded yet is discussion. That's already in there if we go in this direction.
right.
But we wanted you to know, and you know this, but I just want to repeat it, we're not, in this motion, this would-be motion, I'll call it, including anything for the generators.
That's correct, right
Okay.
now.
That's what, this is a starting point.
Which you're working on that all anyway with that, the generators and the West Electrical to get a better handle on what's gonna need doing.
So exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly what we're doing. And again, because Kathy is the energy person, and
Yes.
we're deferring to a better judgment, you know?
Yeah.
Like I said, you know, we're gonna find out if, you know, if I have to and I'm able to put air conditioning in, even without the splits, for the benefit of the teachers, and if you've been at the West in the summer or early fall or late spring, it's hot in there. You know, I'm gonna try and pursue that, but in reality, it makes way more sense long-term, because the unit vents that exist over at the elementary school right now are aged to a point where we're not gonna get parts for them. Whereas at the MAC, there was some fix, or, you know, whatever, refurb back in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. Whereas, you know, again, the West is 1975, 72, somewhere around there, I'm not sure. And that's the challenge we're gonna face,
Okay.
is that the heating system itself will not be able to be repaired over the next few years if we just don't do anything.
Okay. Going back to the motion, it hasn't been seconded. We're talking about 7 items, totaling $1,196,000 or thereabouts. Is that correct? 9 was mentioned, but those are the other 2. The $50,000 from perpetual care for the cemetery truck, and another $200,000 for a cemetery expansion coming from perpetual care. That would make
That's
a total of
correct,
9,
yep.
as Nicole points out. But the, your motion for discussion was just the 7 totaling, let's call it roughly $1,200,000, if my math is correct. Well, we could vote on that, and we can still discuss the fire truck. And I don't think one interferes with the other, from what I'm gathering. You all are the same.
So I guess that's my motion. I would just say on the playground, the 325 is included. If something happens over the next month or so where the school needs to move money around, they can come back to the
Yeah.
select board. And
I appreciate that, Jim.
Yeah.
Again, this is a moving target. I
Yeah,
want people
it
to
is.
understand, we're not being, you know, when the energy person comes in and says, we might be able to get you money for the generator, count me in, like I said, you know. so.
Yeah, okay, well, I think that's a good way to go about it, then you know there's
Yeah,
some money there, should you go in a different direction.
I just was a little bit like concerned that I'm coming in here going, change your plan again, you people going.
No,
"What's wrong with you?"
This is life,
No.
this is life. This is recommendation.
yeah.
We're going to go to the finance committee, the select board, and town meeting, you know, this is part of the process. All right, so that, the only problem we have with that motion, nobody seconded
I
it.
was just gonna say, I'll second that motion for those 7 items from free cash.
Yeah, and she does,
As,
in the perpetual care
and the perpetual care for the 200 for,
and 50 for the truck.
yes.
well, wait a minute, that's a different thing. That's 9, we're talking about 7, so we're,
Oh, I thought you
Well,
bumped it up to 8. I bumped it up to 8.
wait a minute.
8 with the truck, right?
8, so the,
8.
8.
you got 7 with free cash, and then we're also using 200 of perpetual care for that same item for the cemetery. And then the 8th one would be the 50,000 for the cemetery truck, which would be perpetual
With the
care.
truck.
Yeah, but, okay, I get it, but there's 9 items here, 9 items with money on them, so,
Yeah, but some of them are 2s.
No,
No.
there's still 9.
there's still 9 items.
Except for the January
110.
2nd. The
Are you look-
January 2nd is not.
Well, there's 9 items,
There's
but
9,
there's
you
8
take away the fire
projects.
station, there's the fire
9
truck,
items with
there's
8
8.
projects.
Take away the cemetery truck, because that's 100% funded by perpetual care, there are 7 items requiring free cash money.
I think we're all on the same page, we're just
Yeah.
saying it differently.
We're saying the same thing, it's just,
Well, we can-
I'm probably making this more confusing than it really should be.
Probably.
Thank you.
Wow.
Flattery will get you nowhere.
Oops.
Well, but your motions had the 7 items, now it's morphed to 8 or 9, so I just want to be sure. All I want to get is the right words for the motion. So could you need to amend your motion?
So I'd amend the motion, so we have the 7 items coming from free cash,
Yes,
all right? And then 2 items coming from perpetual care.
okay,
One for the truck and one is a shared expense with the
Yes.
cemetery expansion.
yes,
So a total of 8 projects, but 9 different funding.
yes, right, that's correct. Now, the seconder,
Second,
Second. Third.
well, okay.
It's like an Abbott and Costello routine, yeah.
The original seconder is supposed to agree or agree with the change?
I agree to the change.
Okay. So it's been made and seconded. I think we're clear on it. We just, to get the.
Glad these are your
verbiage.
minutes.
Any, I hate to say this is dangerous. Any further discussion on the motion?
No.
If there are none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, no absentees. So that's 7 in favor, none opposed, no absentees. Good, great, okay. So we got that piece of work done. Good work, good work. I think those are good decisions.
Can I ask? We're gonna include that 20,
It is,
no, 25 for the elevator.
No,
the elevator.
it's not one of
The
the,
elevator's not on here.
No, I know, that's why. She wants it for this coming year to do it.
well,
To go with the 60,000, it's gonna cost more because it's been longer and other parts are breaking. The panel's gone too, going.
She said she didn't want to do it this year.
Right.
Yeah, she did. She wrote it wrong. She wrote 25 fiscal year. She wrote that all wrong. I talked to her today. Oh, no, I want it before I retire. She's retiring this year.
but when we discussed it with her here at the CIPC, it was understood, I had the understanding it wasn't going to be done this year. So it's changed, that's all I'm saying. It's nothing, things change, I mean.
Yeah, well, she wanted it done before, she didn't write it right.
Okay, well, it's not in the motion, okay? To answer your
No,
question,
that's
it's not in the motion.
Yeah, I know.
Fine, okay. Now, I don't have any issue with having a further discussion, or if there needs to be another meeting to deal with that, or Jim to take it up and amend this, and as long as we have some general consensus that we want to do that. So what is your thinking on that?
I think we should vote on what we've done first, and then we can take up the.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This is done.
We vote on, did we all
We just
vote on?
voted, yeah.
We just
No,
we did the
got-
first and
did a
second.
couple of twos.
We did all of them, all the,
I know, I didn't think we voted, though. Maybe I missed
Yeah.
that.
No,
Yes.
we
We
voted.
did.
You bet.
7 in favor, none opposed. I declared we had voted on that.
Thank you.
But, okay.
All right,
That's,
so that's done.
now, the 20,000 for the elevator.
Is it
not
20 or
part of-
25?
25.
25, I'm sorry. I was looking at the 20 for the van, I guess.
Van was-
I mean, I would recommend, I'm not warm to the idea of having a meeting to just discuss one item, but if we had to, we would, and we could do a Zoom, I suppose, but would it be the feeling of the committee that Jim should have a discussion with the executive director, Beverly, about this, and when you want to get this done? Are you serious about this? Do you want to add it to the list? Get clarification. Now, out of roughly $1.2 million or whatever, it's not a big part of it. So speaking only for myself, I would be willing to, say, empower Jim, and work with Bev, and agree to change this, just add the 20,000 without another meeting. Generally, actions without another meeting have to be approved unanimously. That's the usual Robert's Rules protocol. But we could do it a couple of different ways. You can figure that out. That's not our problem. Well, what do you think about that?
I think that's fine.
Okay.
It's still gonna have to go, like you said, to the finance committee, the board of
Yep.
selectmen, and town meeting, so there'll
Yeah.
be plenty of opportunity if anybody has concerns. But I will take it up with Beverly and confirm if it's okay with this committee.
I talked to her today on it.
No, we don't disagree with you.
No,
We're
but I
following a
just-
protocol here.
Yeah.
She didn't put it on the list for us, and we didn't put it on the list. So,
She thought we had changed.
I
it
know, I
to
understand.
26.
That's fair. I'm not, no complaint here. And we can deal with this. 20,000, we can deal with this. But I want for the record to show that
25.
there is unanimous
25, right?
25.
25, I keep saying 20, you gotta, I'll get it. The additional money for the elevator will be included. But I'm asking for a unanimous consensus on the part of this board, a unanimous consent of members present, to go in this direction and to add that 25,000, see, I got it right? to what
As
we
a
would-
number one on that.
Okay, up to one,
Yes.
okay.
I'd make the motion, but I don't know if I can make a motion to authorize myself to do so.
Well, why don't somebody make a motion, we'll second.
I make a motion to authorize Jim to speak to Bev to approve the 25,000 for the COA elevator in this,
Vote.
Fiscal year.
Fiscal year budget.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, passes unanimously. So all, if you have a favorable outcome to your discussion, we'll just add the 20. And I would also assume that that number would be the one that we send when we report to the Finance Committee.
Yep.
So it'd be 1,221,000.
Thank you, yes. Okay, now, back to where we started. The fire truck. Again, there's a couple of ways we could do this. Let me ask if Sue would indulge me, what would be your recommendation? You're the keeper of the keys on a lot of this. What's a reasonable approach to the fire truck discussion?
Any of them? I mean, I'd rather see it come, if we're going to go with this option as Jim has on here, the 450 from overlay and 500 free cash, I'd rather do that than just go put it into stabilization. Like I say, it's almost makes sense in a way to put it into stabilization if we're not gonna be utilizing it, let it sit in stabilization, and then if we need it next year, we can vote it out of stabilization. If we have a large amount of free cash next year, we could take the 250 to put towards that.
But when would the?
If we did it this way, it's done, it's over with, and we never think about it again.
Yeah, well, that's clear, but the first part about the stabilization, putting money in there, the fire department would not be able to order the truck,
Yeah.
or would they?
You know, it's interesting.
They have 450,000, is that the down payment? I
It
mean,
hasn't been appropriated yet, right? If it's in stabilization,
Yeah,
until
it's
town
until
meeting
it's
appropriates that money, it's,
it's not fully appropriated unless we do it just this way here. We're just kind of saying, okay, we're guaranteeing you that in the next couple of years, we'll give you the extra 500. But if
if we,
push comes to shove and there's no money there to give them that 500 in the next couple of years, then we're going to be in a predicament because we'll be on the hook if he orders the fire truck without authorization.
not a good position to be in.
Right.
Well, doing it all now, 500,000 from free cash would bring this total up to 1,700,000. You got 450 from Theo.
thanks, yeah.
I mean, it's clean, it's understandable. The
Yep.
voters would have a clear decision to make at town meeting, yes or no.
Yeah.
And we do have the money.
And we're not going to be using that $500,000 or even Theo's 450 all in one chunk. We're sequestering it, but it's over, what, a 2 or a 3 year period of time.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think he said he doesn't pay until the engine's
Yeah.
Doesn't
delivered.
pay
Until
until
it's
it's
delivered.
ready to be
Which is
delivered.
nice, so this will
Doesn't
be,
pay.
So if we do that, just at 4% interest, we can pick up almost 100 grand in additional funds.
You don't need a down payment?
That interest goes to general fund? The
Okay,
free
but
cash.
regardless
I mean,
of where it
but will
goes,
go
you
to
know,
free cash
yeah.
down the road
Yeah.
for something else.
So we, in a way, we kind of get the best of both worlds, as I see it. We know we have the money, we know it's sequestered, we know we're going to be getting interest that is going somewhere, and they can order the fire truck.
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah. What would be delightful if we'd be a grant somewhere along the way in the meantime.
He has
he's still
applied.
applying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's got 3 years to keep applying. I mean, you can still order it. We've got the money in place. If he
Yeah.
gets a grant, then the money will just end up going back into free
Going,
cash.
roll somewhere
eventually.
else, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Roll it somewhere else.
Yeah, so we're not in a position of ordering a truck and not being able to pay for it. The money's
Right,
there.
right.
Just one way or the other, and we may not use the whole 500,000 or 450,000, I guess, I don't know which one we pick first,
Well,
but,
it's up to Theo, that's her money, remember?
okay, I think that makes a lot of sense. We would be then having a total of free cash and needs here of 1,700,000, right?
Yep.
1,721?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep, 1721.
Plus 500.
Okay, is that the feeling of the committee? Then what's the motion going to sound like?
Okay, I'm going to say, I'll make a motion that we vote in the fire engine with 450 coming from the overlay.
Recommending 450 from the assessor's overlay.
Yes, it's 450,000 from the assessors overlay and 500,000 from free cash.
That sounds good.
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion. We all clear on that?
Yep.
I think we've got clarity. Then, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Motion carries, 7 in favor, none opposed. And that's a good outcome, and that total for free cash that would be presenting to the Finance Committee is, could be 1721 if the discussion of the extra 25. See, I'm getting it now, 25. And that's, now we realize, even though we have more free cash, there's other free cash needs. So I think we're being prudent here, but we're coming close to the original idea. This should be around $1.5 million. It's a little more, but for good reason. And I think that we were not aware of the excess in the overlay fund until now, and that's great news.
And
If-
just on the overlay, one of the reasons why we have money in there is because of the new growth that we've been getting year after year. We've gotten a little bit more than we budgeted for, so some of that has gone into this account. And
Good,
we were in the negatives a few years ago, and now we're in the positives, so
good.
it's a good thing. Thanks, Dale.
Yes,
It's our
thanks,
job.
Leo.
It's our job to find everything.
The other thing I would like to say, I mean, we've got these two other items that we were looking at or considering that are twos. If we're not going to be doing those, and there is any, I know we were looking at like 1.5 for spending on free cash, and the other 500 that we just spent on the fire truck to go to capital stabilization. If we're not going to be doing these two, and there is any possibility to put a couple of hundred into capital stabilization, I'm going to be the one to say it. I would like to see it go in there again
Okay, so noted. And the Finance Committee, of course, would weigh in on that.
on that,
As
yes.
you do with OPEB and others. I mean,
Yes,
Yeah, we should express our sentiment that that's the direction we'd like to go in.
yep.
And I think all would understand that clearly and hope that can be done within the confines of our very tight budget. Okay, well, that's excellent. That's a great accomplishment. I think we've done good work here. Let me just shuffle some papers. Okay, this being the case, that we took care of these items today in good order, and I'm taking the minutes on this. I hope Jimmy will have to review those minutes very carefully, but I'll get this to you in the next few days. Then we should also agree that we've got the material that would be sent to the Finance Committee. That's, I don't know what the date of that is, I think it's early February, but we're required by, I think, our town bylaws to make a report to the Finance Committee. I do know that the Finance Committee likes to know the ones that didn't make the cut, so it's a complete list. I think you can work with Karen
Yep.
Ross on
I
that.
can get that.
So we meet that deadline. And then I don't think there are any topics not reasonably anticipated 48 hours in advance. I know of none. Does anybody else know of any? None. So now the question is set date and time of next meeting. I don't think we need another meeting. I think we've done this. If something untoward were to happen, we could always reassemble and have a discussion on something that
Certainly.
didn't go as smoothly as we liked. But other than that, our work is done. I mean, is this the earliest we've gotten done?
I think it is.
And I don't think we left anything out, so I applaud the committee for your time and effort.
Well, it's easy when you get an excess of cash.
Yes.
Yeah, we're realists
Easy to
about
say
that.
yes and no, isn't it?
But I thought most of the credit should go to the committee for
Yeah.
this work. And I think also what we've done is consistent with the five-year plan. I didn't see anything there that concerns me, other than the five-year plan talks about a large need for capital expenditure with limited resources, but that's something we deal with all the time, and we'll continue to do that. So this will be probably the last meeting in this cycle, and I thank you for your time and effort. We'll send out the minutes, and like I say, if there's something that we need to meet on again, we will. And so there is no setting of the date and time of the next meeting. There is no next meeting at the moment, and I thank all of you. So now it looks like we're getting to number 5, a motion to
Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn?
Second?
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair declares the meeting is over.